You're listening to The Voice of Russia in London. I'm Alice Lagnado. Welcome to Curtain Up, our new show about Russian culture. We've got news and views about the capital's most exciting exhibitions, films, concerts, plays and festivals with a Russian flavour. I'm joined today by Julian Gallant, the director of Pushkin House, the mecca for Russians and Russophiles in London, which every night holds a talk, concert or gathering related to Russia and the former Soviet Union. Julian, welcome.
Thank you very much, Alex. Nice to see you.
I'm also joined by an unusual ensemble from St. Petersburg who will be at Pushkin House tonight on the 8th of May. Blagovest are a group of 5 singers trained in the St. Petersburg Conservatory and who perform unaccompanied, a mixture of Russian Orthodox church music and folk songs. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This week is an important week for Russians because it's when they mark Victory Day. May 9th is the day for commemorating Russia's victory over Nazi Germany during the Second World War. In Russia, it's a national holiday marked with a parade on Red Square, including 14,000 troops, plenty of military hardware and a military orchestra. But in London, it's also celebrated. On the morning of May 9th, Russian and British veterans gather at the Soviet War Memorial next to the Imperial War Museum. The memorial was unveiled in 1999 to make up for the lack of monuments in London dedicated to the millions of people in Russia and the former Soviet Union who lost their lives in World War II. Julian, I think you know a lot about the beginning of this monument in London and why it was necessary. Before this, there wasn't a memorial to the victims, to the people who died during the war, were there?
Well, there wasn't a memorial, and there simply wasn't enough knowledge about the sacrifice that Russia and the Soviet Union, as it was, made in the Second World War. The monument is all very well, but it is a symbol of that sacrifice, and every year we go there to lay a wreath to all the people who died. Now, this is absolutely vital. I personally feel that if knowledge of the sacrifice made by the Soviet Union had been greater, there might not have been a Cold War, because people in this country and in the Western world would have had a better understanding of just how many people sacrificed their lives in the fight against Nazism. Today, I hope that that position is being corrected, and certainly I'm going to make a big effort to make sure that the world understands just how big that sacrifice was.
So later in the day, the celebrations are going to move to the HMS Belfast, aren't they? The last surviving ship among those used in the Arctic convoys which brought vital supplies from Britain and the other Allied countries to the Soviet Union during the war. And that's not all, is it? There's a concert of Russian songs from the war years at Pushkin House the same evening, isn't there?
Yes, we have to mark this day as a very special day. And of course, wartime is remembered with a lot of nostalgia about the great action. And it must be remembered there's a celebration on the Belfast, but at Pushkin House, Igor and Sarah Utkin with their Mosaica duo are coming to sing war songs and to celebrate all the activity, the musical activity of those years.
And as far as I understand, these war songs are very well known in Russia. Blagovest, the songs from the wartime years, are songs that all Russians know, aren't they? Olga?
Yes, of course, the songs of time of this war is still famous, and everybody knows this song, and very often we sang during the meeting when we meet with old people who was a soldier during this war, and it's still famous songs, and we have lots of concerts during this time before we celebrate 9 of May.
So well known throughout Russia. Is the concert sold out yet, Julian?
Oh, I'm sure it will be. You have to hurry to get tickets, you need to hurry to get tickets for Blagovest's concert tonight as well. Pushkin House is our room is a large, spacious room, but it is a house. We have 60 seats. Sometimes we can squeeze in 70, but they're always very, very popular.
And you've got other events as well, haven't you? There's a screening on May 10th of a famous Russian World War II film, They Fought for Their Country, which is a film directed by Sergei Bondarchuk about one exhausted regiment as they retreat towards Stalingrad in 1942. while trying to hold their ground against the German army. It's in Russian with English subtitles, so everyone will be able to follow. I think most of your films have subtitles, don't they, Julian?
Yes, this is actually an important thing for us. Russian film is, of course, a world in itself, and it's a great relief sometimes to watch Russian films and get away from the Hollywood culture, which is also a great culture of movie making. But of course, the language can be a problem, and the language can be a barrier. So we make sure we show films which are subtitled, so that the language does not become a barrier, so you can actually enjoy the depth and the richness of the movie making. And so Bondarchuk, of course, one of the great Russian directors. Bondarchuk, of course, great Russian director, but he also worked in Hollywood, and so he was truly an international director.
And I suppose, of course, with song like Blagovest, the language problem isn't so immediate because people can enjoy the music whether they speak Russian or not.
That's a big question you're asking, Alice. I often think about that, whether it's really important if the audience actually understands the words or not. In a sense, the music is the music, and that's the thing that you come to listen to. But I think if you have some understanding of the words and some knowledge of what the words mean in any concert where there's singing, I think your enjoyment is increased, and I think you have more fun with the music.
Olga, what would you say about performing to British audiences? This is not your first tour to the UK, is it? And I think most of your audience probably doesn't understand Russian, but they still get a lot out of your music.
We have been touring for 11 years. As for the first part, when we sing church music, all this music written with text in Bible, I suppose that all people understand and know what it is about. About the second half, when we sing folk songs, at first we have a program and all our songs are translated. But I suppose that all songs mostly written about love and about life. It's not a problem, I suppose, to understand it.
Aside from Victory Day, we've got lots more music this week. On May 11th is the launch of Valery Gergiev's Stravinsky Festival. Gergiev is conducting 4 all-Stravinsky programmes with the London Symphony Orchestra, where he's principal conductor, and some of his finest opera soloists from the Mariinsky Theatre in St. Petersburg are joining him. There's also a free open-air concert in Trafalgar Square on the 12th of May featuring the Firebird Suite from the Firebird Ballet and the Rite of Spring. Now, Gergiev has said, Julian, that it's important to take music beyond concert halls, so he's not worried about competing with the London buses, ambulances and buskers outside the National Gallery. What do you think? Will he pull it off?
Valery is absolutely right about this. There's no question about it, that music needs to get out of the concert hall. Now we have the technology to take it to Trafalgar Square, and what it means is that people who wouldn't normally go to a concert hall are going to have the chance to hear this great music.
Some people think that ballet on ice is a travesty, but personally I'm full of admiration for anyone who can dance on ice. The Imperial Ice Stars are bringing Swan Lake to the Royal Albert Hall on the 18th of May, and the arena floor, where people stand during the summer proms concerts, will be transformed into a 400 square metre frozen lake, and the Manchester Symphony Orchestra will be housed in an enchanted forest on a platform overlooking the ice rink. The artistic director of the show, Tony Mercer, says that Tchaikovsky's score was altered after it was originally written, but that he wants to stick to a score that is as close to the original as possible. Julian, I expect as a classical pianist and conductor, you'd be interested in hearing how the score differs from the usual ballet score used for Swan Lake.
It happened to quite a lot of Tchaikovsky's music that he wrote it one way and then it was adapted by other people. So hats off, when you actually get back to the original, because I think it's more interesting these days is to see what Tchaikovsky's original thinking was.
Now I'd like to move on to Blagovest, who are here in our studio. As we've said, they're an unaccompanied singing ensemble who perform a mixture of Russian Orthodox church music and folk music. Julian, how did you first get to know of Blagovest's work?
Well, Blagovest are well known and they've been here before, and Blagovest have also got a very active tour director who put us in contact with them, and Pushkin House is the first of their performances, but they're here doing about 20 concerts. And
all around the UK,
all around
Exeter, Oxford, Slough.
That's right. They're doing all around the UK. They're in Pushkin House tonight. On the 18th, they're in Slough, and on the 19th, They're in Stapleford near Hertford. So they're doing some other concerts in the immediate London area, but otherwise they're travelling around the UK.
For the whole of May.
For the whole of May.
And who are your audience in the UK? Is it mainly Russians? Is it Brits?
No. Mainly it's English people. Fortunately, I'm very pleased that the English people like church music and they still go to the concert. I think it's very important that we have possibility to go to England and promote our culture everywhere in England. And
now, can I just ask about that actually? I think for listeners who don't know Russian Orthodox Church music well, it would be good perhaps to explain a bit what that is and why it's so beautiful. Could you try to do that for us?
Oh, it's really very difficult. Maybe it's because of very, very old tradition. Because it goes from a very old ages, and we keep this tradition for a long time.
Well, it's certainly very beautiful, isn't it, Julian?
Well, yes, it's absolutely sublime. Russia actually sings naturally in harmony, so singing in choirs is a natural thing for Russians to do, which is a miracle that happens in Russia, it happens in Georgia, and it happens in Wales actually as well. But it doesn't happen very much in England, and it doesn't happen, strange enough, in Italy either. But Russia sings naturally in harmony.
And what about your folk songs? Miroslav, do you want to tell me about one of the folk songs that you sing so we get a flavour and idea of what they are about?
The Russian folk songs, I think, it's the same idea like English folk songs. It's about love, and most of the songs is some situation from life in villages or some. It's the same idea, and I think it's fun, and it was never a problem to understand the meaning of our songs, of words, because the people feel it.
How did you come to the idea of singing a combination of church music and folk songs?
Because we wanted to give a view of Russian culture. The biggest tradition, of course, is church music, and folk songs give a chance to understand about Russia.
So a window on Russia, if you like.
There's no doubt for me that Blagovest and Russian choral singing as a culture shows what Russia's all about, and the richness of Russian life is shown, and the depth of feeling in Russia is shown. This is really vital. And you notice I have not mentioned once Russian soul, because this is a vastly overused expression.
Bit of a cliche.
It's a bit of a cliche. What we're talking about is Russia, people, feelings, the way people feel about each other, the way people feel about God, and all those things. And there's no better way of expressing that than through music.
So for those who want to find out more about Blagovest's touring schedule in the UK, if you go to blagovest.webs.com, you can get full details of Blagovest and even hear a bit of their music. Try it out. Just before we go, one quick mention for jazz fans. The highly regarded alto sax player Zhenya Strigalov is playing at Ronnie Scott's on May 9th. I wonder whether we might, before we go, try a little singing with Blagovest. What do you think?
Yes, it's a funny song about young people, girls and boy, and she invited him to her house, but she asked to keep it in secret from his friends.
So a secret love.
Yeah.
В лесочке комарочков много уродилось, я весну красной девица тому удивилась. Мне нельзя красной девице в лесу погулять, и в лесу погулять, и цвета старой вати. Еще надо мной сходить до зеленого луга, и там надо повидать любезного друга. С вечера с полночи приходил приходил ко мне молочек, с собой невеличек. Что заснула с полуночи, а он меня кличет. Стань, девица, встань красная, ты встань, пробудися. Стань, девица, встань красная, ты встань, пробудися. В моем первом приходе со мной веселися. Я девица взрезала, с катушка бросалась, окошечко открывала, моца пускала. Чествовала, забавляла разными питьями. Заказала, чтоб не хвастал он перед друзьями.
Thank you so much, Blagovest, for that fantastic performance, and thank you for coming into our studio. Thanks also to Julian Gallant of Pushkin House for joining me in this edition of Curtain Up, the programme that tells you all about Russian cultural events in London. You're listening to The Voice of Russia in London. I'm Alice Lagnado. Stay with us.